Welcome back to Twisted Metal Customs. You're with me, Logan, and today we're on episode 2 of Resto on this nice XP Falcon 1965 model U. Today's scope of work will be rust repair, dent repair, some more sanding and dismantling of the XP, trying to get it ready for paint. And if you haven't seen episode 1, check it out because, as explained, this is just a budget restoration. And we wouldn't do this on a $50,000 resto. This is just for the everyday person like you and me, cheapest possible. You're not worried about, a show car. So if that's you, follow along and give it a like, subscribe if you're into this sort of stuff. Let's go. See there, we just welded one of those peephole hatches back up. They were cut previous owner just to see how bad the rust was in there, but there was no rust, which is really good. So we're just welding those back up, but I can feel my gas bottle's running out and just checked it and it's running on fumes, so to speak. So I might just tack those other ones into place. Same as this rust repair on the front here, it's all tacked in, but I have to get another bottle before I finish welding those off. We've got another little patch here to weld in, those 3 patches there, and some at the back. These rubbers were bolted on, so I'm going to have to cut out that whole section there, and I'm not going to put them back on, obviously they're broken, but I don't have a bumper for it, so I'm thinking if I can just replicate this shape all the way around with some sheet metal, and then just have it like that, not have a bumper on the back. So that's the plan. Alright, back into it. So what we're thinking is we need to repair these back sections, so we might do a bit of a detailed how-to rust repair. Horrific rust like this. So that's the inner piece and this is the outer piece. So we'll just go through and give you a bit detailed information on this. If you're interested, stick around. Okay, we'll do this in a step-by-step process. So first of all, identify where the rust is. Clearly there. If you're looking deeper, looking how far it goes back, how much is eaten away on the panel, on the piece you want to replace. So initially I'll mark up at the outside, so I'll see where the rust has gone to and just go at least ½ an inch further past. So just do a rough line where I want to cut. It's a template. So go about there. You can always add on further, but it's ideally, if you can cut this piece out first, you can use that as a template as long as you think you've got all the rust, because if you've got more rust that's coming in here, you're going to have another little dicky piece that comes out after. Now I'm just using a 5-inch Makita grinder but any grinder will do. You can pick them up pretty cheap from Repco or whatever. I've got a 1 mil blade, cutting blade, DeWalt, whatever you can get your hands on is cheap, but be careful when you use these, don't twist them because they'll shatter and you'll end up with a face full of disc. You should be wearing a face shield, very minimum, glasses. Here's some I prepared earlier. Let's get it on. Okay, so as you can see, it's spot welded onto the outer, into the inner piece along there, and also on here. So I couldn't really get those off, but looking at where this rust is on the inner structural piece, it's just stopping shy there anyway. It's still a little bit patinaed and pitted, but that will clean up okay. So what I'm going to do now is just chop maybe 5 mil down from where I have the initial cut all the way along, cut that down so this whole inner piece will come out, and then that's what I replace first. So now that is cut out to the best of your ability to get rid of all the rust that you can see and to eliminate that. Now we have to get a thicker piece of steel rather than your normal gauge for your outside panel. It's always thicker for your structural, so harder to manipulate and to bend in where you want, but most of these ones are flat pieces anyway, so that's lucky. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get a wire brush, wire wheel on the grinder, clean up all this underside of this panel here where it's got that pitting, clean all this up as best I can, take all the paint off this outside piece as I go, and then I'll find some steel to cut out for this piece. Okay, so once you've got that cut out and cleaned up enough to weld to, just get your scrap bit of steel and you just roughly mark out where you want it. So that one lapped over on the top, lapped over here, and then it butts on that top there, but roughly I'm going to get it marked down where I want. Then height wise, there. So now you just square that off with your ruler. And then cut that out. You can use your grinder, but I am going to use this for when I do roofing. And you don't have to use this, but I'm going to. It's pretty hard on thicker steel, but it just makes it easier than using a grinder. Just like that. So now I've got to get that top piece running really square. So what we can do is tuck it up underneath. So it's touching here, tuck that underneath there. I'm just going to scribe that top line all the way around and cut that out, and it'll fit in perfect. So you can see there that some fine tuning, it fits like a glove. So use your magnets to hold it into place roughly. You can see that. So now we get the welder and just take that along, and because it's a structural piece and it's not on the outside, you don't have to worry about warpage too much, so you can sort of get into it a bit. But when you start welding this outside piece, that's when you start cooling down every second or third tack with the air blower. trying to use these sanding discs, they wear down really quickly and they're pretty expensive. So what I started doing is getting the 3-inch ones, and when they wear down, I'll cut that rubber down a little bit. So when they wear down, I can take these off and then use them on the smaller one. So then you can cut them, trim them back, so you've got a brand new disc, because normally the middle is still good. So it's a little tip there for you. Okay, so now you can see that that's in there. Don't worry about grinding the weld down too much on the inner pieces, because that's a lot of the strength. If you grind it down flat, it's going to be paper thin. So I'll leave mine a little bit proud, just so it's smooth enough so you're not going to catch your finger on it. So when you paint it, you know, giggle coverage, whatnot. So now we do the same on the inside for the outside. So we get another bit of thinner gauge steel, like normal sheet metal, shape it up, cut it out, and weld that one in. But we paint that back one first, get it nice and painted and covered. Alrighty, so we've got that cut out, the outer piece now, and we have the bottom return lip folded up with my little doohickey over there. So what we're going to do now is tack it in. What you want to do is go around with your little sharp bit of metal or a podgy bar or something to get it where you want it. Tack it so those edges are absolute flush. That's the biggest secret, is take your time to get them flush, because if you don't, then you can be grinding there all day and you're always going to be grinding down one of the panels. So that's priority, get them flush. But then tack it off about 1 inch apart all the way around, and then get your air blower. So when you're starting to weld in the gaps, do 2 or 3 tack welds and then cool it down with your air, move somewhere else. So just keep moving around the panel, and we're going to hyperlapse this because it takes a bit of time. But you'll see, I'll just do a bit, blow it, move somewhere else, bit, blow it, and it reduces warpage, especially on big panels like your roof or your doors. This one isn't as important because generally it's covered by a bumper, but good practice. Clean that down now, and when you're doing this part on the exterior of a panel and you're grinding the weld off, only touch the weld. You don't want to grind down the either side of the panel to make it flat. You just take the weld. So what I do is either a grinder or a flat disc or whatever you got, tilt it right up on a steep angle so you've got steep curvature of the disc, and then just say that's the weld. Just go along the weld, just scrape it smooth and just take that section off. If you start to take off the side of the panel, then just stop. Alrighty, so you can see there that it's ground down. So when they get down the weld as flush as you can without touching the sides, then I just even it all out, go over the whole lot, and yeah, skim coat a bog, primer, and then Bob's your uncle. So we've got another side to do yet, and a couple more other bits of rust repair, but the welder is out of gas. Just on the last bits of weld there, you can see that splattering a bit. So that's all the welding we can do today. So we're just going to get stuck into sanding. We'll sand the rest of these panels down and do the other side of the wheel arch with the underbody paint, and yeah, we'll just keep getting into it. Alright, as you can see, got a fair bit done today. We've done some of the rust repair and sanded most of the body down, and started painting bits and pieces that are ready to be painted. And so what's left is dent repair. So there's a dent down that side there. I don't know if you can see it on that side, but there's a fairly decent sized dent I need to push out from the inside, so I need to take that guard off. I'm just going to shoot to town to grab the gas for the welder, and the water pump showed up, so I can put the water pump in next time. But I think this might wrap it up for today. It's getting pretty close to the 10-hour mark, but I'll probably just tinker a bit on this afternoon when I get back from town, see if I can get a bit more done. But that's about 20 hours. As you can see, it takes a fair bit of work to even get a budget car up to standard to paint. So yeah, so hopefully this is helpful and gives you a bit of insight what's involved with doing even just a basic resto. But yeah, stay tuned for next time. We'll have a lot more done then. We'll have more parts to get everything else finished off, and hopefully we can get in some primer and slap some blue metallic paint on. But I don't know whether to do a poll in the community on my YouTube, but should I A, paint it metallic blue, or B, sand it all like this so it's sort of patinaed finish and just satin clear that maybe. Don't know, not a huge fan of that, but I'm thinking metallic blue. But I'll put a poll up anyway and see what you guys and gals reckon. Anyway, thanks for watching. Twisted Metal Customs. Tune in for next time, turn your alerts on, subscribe, like, all that stuff for me, it would be great. Thank you, and I appreciate it.